Hey everyone, welcome to POPXP. And before the show starts, make sure to click that subscribe button and click the bell to get notifications when we go live and we upload awesome new content. And don't forget, if you can, make sure to share our stream on all your social media outlets. We appreciate it, and thanks for helping us grow the POPXP channel. Hey, what is going on YouTube? It's the brain of the mainframe here now, Scott with the POPXP with another exciting episode of the POPXP Paranormal. And joining me as always is my co-host, my compadre, Mr. HC Noel. Howie.
Hey, Nile, how are you?
I mean, you look like a ball of sunshine, man.
Yeah, I'm in Florida, and so I have a little tropical light set up, and
What's the drink for tonight? Come on, you gotta have something.
I have a rum and Diet Coke.
Oh, Diet
Coke.
And
yeah, I made this in preparation for our guest who had a YouTube series over these pandemic times called Speakeasy. So I'm very excited. I wanted to do this in honor. That's what I'm blaming alcoholism on.
So you've been honoring it for what, about the past 48 hours now or so?
Well, 30 years, but it's all for him. I knew he would do this show, psychic.
It was all for the hype.
I was waiting for the YouTube to get invented for him to do his show,
Isn't YouTube wonderful, man? I love this. I love this platform.
Yeah, I watch it way too much.
I know, it sucks you in, and hopefully we'll suck you all in with our fine guest tonight. And Howie, please, if you can, do the honors of introducing our guest.
Today's guest is a great friend of mine. He's a brilliant writer. You will know his work on several things, including being the host of New England Legends, and his new book is very exciting, and it's a beautiful personal story that's actually doesn't deal with the paranormal at all, but it's the call of Kilimanjaro, finding hope above the clouds. And I'd like to welcome my friend to the show, Jeff Belanger.
Hey, Howie. Hey, Nile. Good to be with you guys.
Jeff, how are you? We're happy to have you here. It's an honor to have you on our fifth episode. We're thrilled. And Jeff, it's so cool because you had that YouTube channel, Speakeasy. And I have to tell you, when we had Dave Schrader on the show, I told him the story how I got like 90% of my body covered in poison ivy or something, and they put me on steroids. So I just started like powering through house renovations, doing those COVID renovations on the house. And I was listening to Darkness Radio, and you guys were on there, and you guys were just talking and like getting drunk, and I'm like doing all this work, hanging out with you guys. And I mean, it was some of the best episodes in a podcast that I've ever listened to, and I have to thank you for getting me through that steroid-ridden time during this COVID pandemic.
It's so funny, right? So we're social creatures. We need to be with each other. We really do. And we were all forced to like innovate and figure out a way to be social. And so the Speakeasy, which will come back, I've just been super busy, and I didn't want it to become like a thing, because then it loses its charm when it becomes too organized, So but I realized like it all started because I texted some buddies in Michigan, and I'm like, hey, you guys want to have some beers tonight? And like, these are the kind of buddies where like, I mean, a wrong number could have texted them and said, do you want to have some beers tonight? And they'd be like, yes. Who are you? It doesn't matter. Right. And so I had Brad and Tim on, and I said, well, we got this thing, StreamYard, and we'll just stream it, and we'll let other people watch while we drink. And they said, yeah, whatever. You had us at beer. And so it turned out people kind of like felt social. They're just like, this feels sort of like social. Like we're all hanging out at a bar. I didn't have any prepared questions other than like, what my only prepared question was, what are you drinking? Like that was it. Then from there it was like, how did you cope with today? And just people started sharing stories of like what they were doing during the pandemic and how they're getting by. And it just felt like something social. It's a substitute, and we all know that, but it felt closer to something normal than I think any of us had in weeks. And so it was fun to do, and I will do it again in some capacity, some way, somehow. But I mean, how cool that we live in a time where we had this.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine this was 20 years ago, and none of this was around, and we would have just been like, we would have been going even more nuts.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the good side of the technology that people can actually reach out and you can, hang out with your friends at least. And while you can't be in person, at least you're not alone. I mean, it's right. Because like you said, we need that.
Yeah, no, that isolation. I mean, it's bad, man. I mean, look at the way it like affected my daughter and just everything. Everybody's just, we weren't meant to live like this. That's not who we are as like a species, but we're getting through it. I think we're getting through it. I think there seems to be some light up ahead.
Oh yeah.
We're getting there. So I'm hopeful.
Yeah. And look what happened to Jack in The Shining.
Right.
See, everybody villainized this guy one day. Oh, have you ever been in Colorado trapped in snowfall one day with your family? See, now everybody realize.
Yeah, now we all get it.
You watch The Shining now, it's like watching another cut of the movie, and you're like, I watched this wrong entirely. He's not.
I've been defending that guy forever, and now everybody sees my way. He had no alcohol. They took it all.
That's true.
They took it all, and he's a recovering alcoholic. He just wanted one beer.
Yeah, this guy was a hero.
Yeah, he made it a day.
He made it interesting.
So our last family made it in like a couple of months. He's like 1 week. That's what we're doing.
So let's talk about that before we get into the paranormal stuff that you're known for and everything. Let's talk about the Call of Kilimanjaro in the book. It's coming out, right? Or no, it is available now. It's available now.
Yeah.
So tell us about the whole journey and the inspiration to write the book and everything.
So lately people have been asking me, like, is this a whole new direction for you? Or are you still the paranormal guy? I am still the paranormal guy. And actually, if you followed my life and my work and my talks and stuff, to me, this is sort of a logical step, because this was very much like a spiritual journey for me. And one in the middle of my life, like I'm in my 40s. And I think like a lot of people in my 40s, my life is a rut, and I have a cool job, by the way. Like, I don't dig ditches or anything. Like, I get to do some really cool stuff, but yet, I still got to wake up, get my daughter to school, get the oil changed on the car, cut the lawn, do my job, pay my bills, just, and repeat, do it all again the next day. And so there's a bit of a rut going on. In 2013, my brother-in-law was diagnosed with cancer, and he went from just losing a little bit of weight, something felt weird, to a bunch of tests. And then suddenly they just said, you have stage 4 cancer, fully metastasized, tumors everywhere. You have 18 to 24 months to live. And all of us were just like, what? I mean, like, so out of the blue, to a death sentence. My nephew was 3. His son was 3 years old at the time. And we're like, you're going to be gone in 2 years. And during that time, because I'm a paranormal guy, he and I got pretty close, because my sister sort of like didn't want to talk about it, like death and dying. She was just, no, we're going to fight this thing. We'll do chemo and radiation. And he did. But he could talk to me about it. I was close, but enough removed. And so we talked a lot about death and dying, this process he was going through. And by the time he got to the very end, and it just wore him down, as cancer will do, wore him down to nothing. He was having these out-of-body experiences in his final weeks. He was seeing like his grandma from childhood. He was seeing his cat, and he would talk to me about it in the just most matter-of-fact way, like recognizing that I know this isn't normal. I know one should not see your cat from childhood or your grandma who was passed on years and years ago, but yet there it is, and I'm just telling you what I'm seeing. And then when he did pass away in 2015 in late December, that was a really big blow for all of us. And selfishly, I really felt my own mortality, as you do. When you lose someone roughly your age, you're just like, oh, that could be me, right? I mean, of course that could be me. And so it was just like 6 or 7 months later, I was doing an event, a paranormal event, a fundraiser. And someone from the Leukemia Lymphoma Society said, hey, we're doing a new fundraiser, Jeff, and it's really big. And I'm like, I'll help if I can. I'm really busy. And she said, Kilimanjaro. We're climbing Kilimanjaro. And I just sort of froze in my tracks. What she didn't know was that I took 2 semesters of Swahili in college, which is the language of East Africa. She didn't know that I've been a hiker since college, and I've done all kinds of mountains in New England, that my brother-in-law had just died from cancer. So I was like, go cross a big, I mean, I've dreamed of Kilimanjaro for years. It's one of the 7 summits. It's not a technical climb, so you're not like hanging by ropes and stuff. And if you can walk it, you can get there. And I've wanted to do it. And all of a sudden, like, it's like the universe put this thing on a golden platter and just said, you'd be raising money to fight cancer, crossing an item off your bucket list in the middle of your life, doing something to honor your brother-in-law who died months ago. And like, I just looked at her and I said, yep, I'm in, let's do this. And then from there I started training and got so singularly focused. And I didn't know it would be a book probably until I was coming down the mountain, but I was just so engrossed with every part of it, with like focusing on like wanting to stand on the top of that mountain, with wanting to be in Africa, with wanting to like have all these experiences, and then getting there. And it was so life-changing that I just kind of had to in order for me to process it, I had to write it all down.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. And what a gift to him too, that you left behind, I think, and to your sister as well. And, their family. I just think it's a beautiful thing because it's a tribute too. It's your journey that kind of inspired, that it's telling your whole life story, your own journey, because it's so symbolic.
Yeah. So the mountain, as a writer, and not just a writer, any creative person, right? Like the mountain is such a metaphor. Anything can be a mountain, right? Like any challenge you have can be a mountain, whether it's like, getting to work without a car this week, getting over a breakup, finding a new job, like anything can be a mountain. There's something sort of comforting when it's literal. You're like, well, there it is. Like, I know what I got to do. I got to get up there, and I gotta put one foot in front of the other. And so I feel like this is a challenge that, sometimes we have to put challenges in our way in order to grow. Especially when you get in the middle of your life, because your life gets sort of comfortable. And by comfortable, I mean like, like the friends that have annoyed you when you're younger, you just sort of, hopefully you've gotten rid of them by your 40s. You have a job that you're probably good at, that puts enough pizza on your table and enough beer in your fridge, right? And you have a life that's just comfortable. And while comfort is good, some days that's really welcome. You also need to remember that you still have that grit in you that you knew you had when you were younger. And sometimes you need to find that grit, get back in touch with it, and say like, all right, I'm still kind of a badass. I can still do badass things. And that for me was a wonderful discovery, and I remember we were like 13,000 feet. And once you're 13,000 feet up, there's no trees, there's just a couple of small, like underbrush kind of things. It's hard to live at 13,000 feet. There's not much up there for you. And I remember looking at these little bushes and the little flowers and stuff and going, man, that takes grit to be up here. And then I'm like, wait, I'm up here too, and I'm like, I must have some of that. All right. Felt a little swagger that I hadn't felt in a long time.
How long is that journey for? How long was it? How many days?
So the mountain's 19,341 feet tall. It takes 6 days to get to the top, going the Lemosha route, which is the way we took, and 2 more days to get down, because you go up one side of the mountain and then it's like one way down, and you get picked up on the other side of the mountain. 42 miles in total, and it takes you all the way up to the 19,341 feet and then back down. So yeah, 8 days on the mountain.
Wow.
Is it a quiet hike through? I mean, is it just really kind of like yourself in your mind just trekking on, even though you're probably with a group?
Yeah. So there were 12 of us from the US, all climbing for Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. And then there were literally 48 guides, porters, the cooks and so on that help us like set up these little camp villages, as we go from camp to camp. So down below, once we were in the rainforest, and that's only day one, like, you start walking and you're like, oh my gosh, we've started. And it's a very defined trail. It's super easy. And then you look up and you see monkeys, and you're like, oh my God, monkeys, right? Like we're on their turf, and it was such a mind bender for me, because I've seen monkeys in zoos and stuff, but I'm like, that monkey could jump off that tree and rip my face off if it wanted to. Fortunately, not to ruin the story, but he didn't want to. He didn't want to rip my face off. So
that's not in the book.
It was.
I hadn't gotten there. I have my copy, but I'm not in the monkey part.
Right.
I was wondering if that was later on. You got reconstructive surgery from a monkey attack.
Okay. Yeah. So no monkey attack. But once you got above the tree line, which was day two and beyond, we're all above the tree line. Man, there's no There's no cars or trains or any city noise you can hear up there. There's no planes, don't even fly overhead. I mean, for small planes, it's too high. And for jets, there's too much turbulence. They go around the mountains. So like, it's just silent. The only sound is wind that hits your ears and ruffles off your gear and your coat. And that was amazing. Like to realize after about 3 days, that feeling of like finally being unplugged for the first time and as long as I could remember, where I wasn't caring about like the email I was missing or my cell phone has no signal, no Wi-Fi, no nothing, just like, wow, the world will be okay, with me here, and I'll be okay, and my family will be okay. Just have to trust that those things are all going to be all right. And that was another revelation that I didn't see coming, just the getting unplugged. But it was quiet, and I think the quiet helped.
Yeah. It's almost like almost seemed like a mental, physical, maybe spiritual, like reset, like get yourself away from everything, exert all this energy, get into your head, organize your thoughts, disconnect. It just, the way you're describing it makes me want to go or on some type of adventure like that. I mean, how great would it be to disconnect from the world? I mean, our world is so small nowadays, and it seems like everyone's concerns and chaos it's shared by so many people, that it almost just seems like this amazing, almost like reset yourself. The world isn't black and white. Your life isn't black and white. Remember to live in color and explore, remember you have that grit, like you were saying.
It really was a resetting thing. And again, none of that was on my mind before I went. I didn't expect any of those things. It's just stuff I discovered along the way. I was thinking, because that's the type of person I am, I was like, I want to get to the top. I want to get to the top. I want to get to the top. Like, just so goal focused. And I'm not proud of that, by the way. Like, I don't want to make you, I'm not bragging. I'm actually ashamed, because when someone tells you it's about the journey, not the destination, we all know that, but damn it, sometimes I just want to get to the destination.
Right.
So that's, I'm just like, I got to get to the top. Anything short of getting to the top is a failure. Like I had this whole mindset. And then, by the way, not to give it all away, but when you get to the top, when you get to the summit, and not all of us made it, and you pass plaques where people have died and there's markers, commemorating them and things like that. You get to the very top and you touch that sign, and the air is so thin, like you just can't breathe. It's just, as deep as you can. And then you realize, oh crap, this is halfway.
You don't even think of that. Like, I would have never thought of that until you just said it right now. That is halfway.
You have to go back down. You can't just stay there and be airlifted.
And not only that, it occurred to me too, like it's not just halfway down the mountain, it's halfway home, right? Like that's the thing. That's the big thing. The next step I take now is my first step back home, like on the way back home. And I get to bring this experience and this, and I don't want to tell you like I'm an enlightened guru. I'm not. Like but I had an enlightening experience, and I feel like I improved myself a little bit, and I came back a better version of Jeff, and and suddenly, like, the idea of getting that home was exciting to me, to be like, I need you to see this thing that affected me. And that was the driving force. Because, by the way, this is true literally, and it's true metaphorically. Coming down a mountain sucks.
I can imagine that's pretty rough, because climbing's one thing, but then that
going up is easier. Listen, for those of you who have never climbed mountains, going up is so much easier. And the reason is
saying all downhill from here.
No. So the thing is, when you go up, it's just your muscles, your leg muscles. It's all muscles. If you're tired, rest. Just stop for a minute, take a breath, and keep going. When you're coming down, it's all impact on your ankles, on your knees. You're tired, you're wobbly. That's where you blow out ankles. You don't blow an ankle going up. You blow an ankle coming down. And so coming down, it's hard. I mean, the nice thing is that there's a lot more air down there, and you don't have to go as slow. You can come down and be like, oh, oxygen. I remember that. And so that part's nice, but it hurts. That's what makes you sore in your knees and your ankles when you're coming back down. And of course, after getting to the top, I was just like, oh, crap, what now? I've been thinking about this for years and training for it hard for like 6-7 months. Now what? That was hard too, to be like, well, this isn't it. Like I'm not done now, but what's next?
Yeah.
That's
and
interesting. And everybody can read this long. It's available on Amazon and all major bookstores. And I got my copy. I love Jeff's writing. I really do. And if you get a chance, he's been doing virtual events, but usually he's on tour in a normal world. He would be on tour. And I highly recommend going to see him speak. I mean, and not just because I love him, but it's part of the reason. But I learn stuff just going to the events and hearing from him. And he knows so much, not only about obviously this mountain and this journey, but the paranormal as well. I mean, you are like a living library of paranormal legends, right? Urban legends of the Northeast.
Well, thank you, Howie. No, I mean, I think I love telling these stories, finding them and sharing them, because I think that's we humans, right? We've always bonded over sharing stories and experiences. Right. That's the thing that binds us together. And one of the things that I adore about like ghosts and monsters and other paranormal legends is that if I say ghost and you go, hey, there's no such thing, I'm a skeptic, that's fine. That's totally cool. Then you can just switch your mind to go, but I'll hear the story because I love a good ghost story. And that's fine because the story still has some inherent value to it. However, what we're really talking about, of course, is what happens after we die. And what kind of legacy do we leave, and will I leave when I'm gone, and all those other things, these really big questions. If I were to frame that same discussion in the realm of like, let me tell you about my religion, you'd be like, no.
Let me tell you about my politics.
Let me speak to you.
Like,
about the afterlife.
Yeah. Can I share some of my literature with you from my church? And you're like,
you do that better on your events. You're not knocking on the door and going, let me speak to you about Bigfoot.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Have you met Bigfoot?
And what's the Loch Ness monster up there?
Yeah. Champy, Lake Champlain.
Yes. Lake Champlain's lake monster.
Champy. Yeah.
Which is I think it sounds more pleasant than the Loch Ness monster,
So, by the way, there's a AA or AAA professional baseball team, and they're the Lake Monsters, and their mascot is Champ, and he runs around, and I'm like, he's a whole industry up there. T-shirts, plush toys, you name it.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, it is awesome.
So, Jeff, tell us your journey into the paranormal. I mean, how did you even get to where you are today?
So I mean, I grew up in an old New England town, and I lived in the town next to Ed and Lorraine Warren. So I knew them since I was literally 12 years old. I grew up in Sandy Hook, Connecticut. They're from Monroe, which is the next town over. And so I knew them. And I mean, Lorraine went to our church sometimes. We would see them in the grocery store, and they were like local celebrities. In fact, and they're more famous now than they were then.
That's what's insane.
Yeah. Like hands down, I can tell you, like back then they were famous where we were, if you're like, hey, did you hear about that house on Main Street? It's haunted. The Warrens checked it out. Like, that's what you said, right? That was it. You're like, the Warrens went there.
Right. Like, I knew them from Amityville, and that's before the movies. And
right.
And the movies have made them like, that's like a Marvel universe thing, but for horror.
Well, I'm from Connecticut as well, and that's like the Warrens were just a big name. Whenever you mention ghosts, people are like, oh, have you ever heard of the Warrens? The Warrens.
Where are you from, Nile? Where in Connecticut?
I'm from Meriden, and I live in Middletown.
Yeah. No, I know the whole area. Yeah. I mean, it's not a big state, right? So and so, knowing them, I attended their programs and lectures. I'm sure that had an influence on me, but I wanted to be a writer, and I started as a newspaper guy. And so around October, a features writer, you go looking for ghost stories, interviewed the Warrens. And I loved like going to haunted places and getting those stories. And then I started a website in 1999 called ghostvillage.com, which my website's so old it could legally drink. Like, just let that sink in. How many websites do you know can say the same? There's a few, but
Space Jam and you.
Yeah, Yahoo was around before me.
Yes,
not long, but around. And
you've redesigned though. You've redesigned, unlike Space Jam. Right. You've had to redesign.
Right. So I just put a thing up. I said, hey, tell me about your ghost experiences. And I got like, an email every month.
Mhm.
And then it just exploded. And then I started writing books and then started working in television. And it was not a plan. I just loved the subject. It drew me in.
Mhm.
And then there was a day that I just sort of woke up and I said, wow, this is my job now. Like, this is what I do. And that was 2004. And I haven't looked back. I've been doing this full time. Write the show Ghost Adventures, writer and researcher since 2008, since the very first episode. That's 13 years that's been on the air,
Yeah.
like it's weird to meet people that are like, oh man, I used to watch that show as a kid. I'm like,
Yeah.
we've been on that long.
Yeah, that's what's crazy. Like if you think about, because I'm much newer to every meeting every one of you and becoming friends, and then I'm like, it's been over a decade, so maybe it's not that new anymore. Like I still feel like, we just met, we were just at Mount Washington. I met you for the first time, and
So, Howie, do you
30
remember,
odd minutes.
do you remember the Mount Washington event? It was all paranormal. It wasn't just ghosts, right?
Yeah.
And so the funniest thing happened. Do you remember they had the really great expensive Bigfoot costume?
Yes, I do. My wife Shelly got a picture.
Okay. So at one point, Bigfoot's walking through the lobby, right? And it's the good, like $400 costume. Like it's a sweet.
It's a good one. Nile, you would like it. Yeah, it was a good one. It had nipples, I believe.
Yeah.
If it has nipples, it's a good costume.
We were touching the nipples.
It's real.
Yeah.
With permission.
Right. I mean, if we could put that thing blurry in the woods, you'd be like, game, set, match. It's over.
It's kidding. We've got money if we do that. I don't know why we didn't do that. There's a woods there.
There was plenty of woods. We missed a golden opportunity.
We missed it.
But what my point was though, so there were all these ghost hunters and I saw like a little group of them, 3 or 4, and they had EMF meters and all this stuff in their laps, and they're working with their cameras, getting everything ready for the ghost hunt. And Bigfoot walks by and they look up and they go back to their stuff. And I was like, Bigfoot just walked by and
That's
you're
so
thinking
strange.
like, not a ghost, don't care.
It's not my thing.
Not my thing. Like the mothership would come down, right?
Yeah.
And to look out. Yeah. No ghosts.
That's not real. They'll be like, that's not real.
No.
But the ghost in my bedroom when I was a child.
That's real.
Legit. That's why I love it all. But like, yeah, I love it all. And like, I just so funny when they're like, I'm not into ghosts at all, but Bigfoot. And I'm like,
yeah.
Or, it's just funny how you think like it's Oak Island, right? Where they dig for the treasure. It's a form of Bigfoot, that treasure. I mean, that's like, because they can't find it. And it's like a hunt. Is it really out there? It's a legend. What's the difference between that and then wanting to see a lake monster? Not much, other than you'd be rich if you found it. Yeah. Well, either way, you'd be rich. If you find Champion, you're rich. If you get Peru, it's the same thing. I do think that's so hysterical. And I've been at a ghost hunt where the stuff that was happening to me, like where the flashlight's interacting and it rolled towards me, they're like, can you tell your flashlight to chill out? We're trying to ghost hunt. I'm like, what do you think is happening here? It's just so funny. It's funny the things that happen, where people are very selective about what they like and what they're looking for.
They are. And like, what makes something real anyway? You know what I mean? Like, so, can you let me share my screen here? This would be
definitely
amazing. So, okay, ready? Hold on.
Those tabs. Watch those tabs.
Watch those tabs.
All right. So I'm going to share a screen. Got this. Okay, hold on. Ready? All right. This thing here. And so this is what I love, right? So, I just went Inception. Oh, application window. Got it. Okay, ready? Okay, got this. Check this out. So this is in New Hampshire, right? The Betty and Barney Hill in Lincoln, New Hampshire. And so are we seeing that? We're seeing that. Good. Okay. Yeah. So that sign is right on the side of the road. Betty and Barney Hill is a pretty famous UFO case that took place in New Hampshire. Now, what's important is that sign right there, right? So you can say there's no such thing as aliens, UFOs, or whatever. The state of New Hampshire taxpayers paid for that sign. Yeah. Like it's like, wow. I love that so much. Right.
So the sign is real.
The sign is real.
We don't know if the UFO is.
Right. So the sign, like it's this beautiful metal sign, embossed metal, painted, like the whole thing. And like New Hampshire taxpayers like pay for these signs, like historic markers. This is a historic marker. And I absolutely adore that that taxpayers had to pay for that. And I'm like, you could say UFOs aren't real, but that sign is.
That sign's legit.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's a legit sign.
Totally. That sign exists and it's out there.
And Champy, there's a stone marker that we got a picture of too. I don't think I have it to pop up, but it said like, you know, Lake Champlain Champy, the lake monster, and it looks like a headstone. I mean, but it's a commemorative stone, and in the corner there's a logo that says I think it's like Vermont Lottery Commission. So like the state paid for that.
And so that headstone's real. So it's kind of Champy's getting closer to being.
Well, they're like, what will tourists come here for?
Yeah,
Champy. They'll come for Champy.
They do though. Like,
yeah,
look,
they do.
We all went to the
they
Mount
profit
Washington.
off it. Yeah,
right. But we went to the Mount Washington. It's haunted. It's in the wood. Let's go. Right. Like that's
it's
a draw.
It's not just because it's beautiful or I wanted a vacation. No, I wanted to see the ghost. I wanted to, meet the princess. That's the princess in the princess room. I wanted to flirt with the ghost. I did it.
Do you remember the bartender, Howie? Like,
I'm trying to remember.
This is important because, like, so the Mount Washington Hotel is used to like Daddy Warbucks coming up with like his rich nephews, right?
Right.
And here's a bunch of like ghost hunters, tattooed and whatever, and they had this little tiny bar near the lobby. And we're 30 deep waiting to get a drink. And there's one guy and everybody's tipping. And he was just so infuriated with having to work. Right?
Yes, I do remember that.
He wants like Daddy Warbucks that's going to order a drink and then he'll have to get another drink in like a half an hour. And here was like, 50 people. And I just remember being like, we are all so out of place. I love it. I love the fact that we just don't fit in anywhere. You can't take us anywhere.
No. And that's the camaraderie. We're together and being the outsiders,
That's
like,
right.
Because even if when you go to the Stanley Hotel, you still feel like, well, I know this is a shining hotel, but I feel like I don't belong.
No,
like I feel like, because they've got a film festival next week and, but at least they play The Shining in their room. I don't know if they still do it, but they played The Shining in the bedroom. And I was like, I don't think I want to go to the event. I just want to watch this.
Right. And now, of course, that movie means something so totally different.
Exactly. We realized
and we're back. We're back to where we started. Yeah.
Symmetry. And that's a full circle. And it's beautiful. See, that's why you're a professional. Look at that. Like, he's a writer. That's what they do.
Why he brought it right back. He brought it home.
I just do comic books. That's where mine just go off the rails. And then you're like, I'm done drawing. I don't need it. The journey wasn't so much the story. It's you just seeing me finish this. That's my... I think I would end up at the top of the mountain and be like, I'm good. I think I'm good.
Staying here.
I can't do the downhill. It sounds horrible.
That's where your true grit comes.
That's
See if your ankles can take it, Howie. See if
I read the book. I read his book, so I don't have to personally do it. I don't.
Dude, I want to read it while you're on one of those step machines.
I want to discover him.
That's
right. I'm gonna discover beauty through Jeff's writing.
So you know what, too, though, like, and I know, because I read Float. And it's hard to be that vulnerable.
Yeah, I realized that when I was like done. I was like, uh-oh. And then you're like, I wish I could undo some parts. I had a friend keep pushing me. My friend Victor kept like, no, you got to be honest. That's why you're doing it. And Shelly would be like, yeah, it's really personal.
But any art that's like worthwhile has to be honest. And so it was hard to write a memoir. I've never written a memoir. It's my first. Mm-hmm. And, I always took other people's stories. So like you could tell me your story about going to a place and seeing a ghost, and you could talk to me. And I'm pretty good at like being like, all right, people aren't going to care about this part, but this is the meat, and I can flush it out. Like I'm good at that. It's your story. I can be totally objective and be a good editor. It's hard when you're talking about yourself to realize what's important and what isn't. And so, I mean, the book took a year and a half to write. And I had to walk away for months. And the first draft was literally twice the length that it is now. And, you write like 3-4 pages about going to REI and sitting through this seminar. And the guy was so boring and dry. And then you read it, months later, and you're like, No one's going to care that I went to REI. Nobody. Gone, you know, like all these things, all these moments that you think were just so profound at the time, but you're just like, no one's going to care.
Yeah.
So
what I wanted to do with Float was I knew that people with anxiety were going to read it. So it can't be, even though I've seen these biographical comics that are they're like a phone book. I'm like, my ego is not big enough for me to think that that's worthy. And plus I want you, if you have anxiety, to be able to go read it generally quickly. Because the last thing I can do if I'm really bad with anxiety, really, really bad, and you've had tax a lot, you can't even sit through a movie, man. Your attention span is so rocked. Like, that's why YouTube's very popular with people with, you know, like mental illness and stuff, because it's such quick clips, you know. And that's just one of the things, like I did set out going, maybe this will be this Lord of the Rings thing, and you know, and then you're kind of like, I don't need to do that to people. Let's go through everything. But you just stuff it with a comic. You can stuff a lot of, you know, you can have art and be an illusion, but you actually have to detail these things out. But yours for people that I think it's perfect the way it is, and it feels. I can't believe this. It's got to be so cool to see that in print, right? Like this particular one.
This one, this felt like the first book. The first time I got to hold my first book and be like, I wrote a book, I did it. Look, you know. But at the same time, the second I held it, I was like, oh my God, like I'm naked in this. Like I'm like not literally naked, but I am very figuratively naked and vulnerable. And like, you know, like you start watching the reviews, and someone posted something on Amazon today, didn't care for my use of some profanity. I'm like, I didn't think there was much in there. Like, you know, there's a few, because I'm an adult.
What a weird hang up to it. Just that's critique. Yeah, that's critique. Yeah, that's a critic system. It's
but
just,
you're just like, because to me, I was just trying to be real. Like, I don't, you know, don't use flowery language. If it's an S-bomb, it's an S-bomb, you know, like, I mean,
I don't think that's that bad. Yeah.
No. But it's just funny how vulnerable you feel. I mean, so I'm like, you know, only 4 stars out of 5. Like,
yes, with this one. Yeah. I go on Goodreads with dread, and I'm like, because I know with Float, it's very particular, and I kept it off Amazon. Like, you have to go through me because that personal. Like, I'm like, no, I have to know who you are. And like,
did you fill out the application to buy this?
Yeah, I'm like, I know the Kickstarter people, and I know this. So when I see a Goodreads, I'm like, okay. They were very polite on Goodreads. So
I had to meet Howie behind a dumpster to get my copy of Float. Like, we were looking around, and we're just like,
he's like,
and then I warned him, I'm like, you're sure? You're sure you want to do this?
You're not a cop, right? No, I'm not a cop.
You're not going to take photos where I'm very vulnerable in that book.
Right. But that's the thing, right? And so I think that's what people respond to, is that vulnerable, the honesty. Any art that's worth a damn is honest, whether it's a painting or a song or a poem or a book or a picture or whatever, right? Like, it's gotta just be honest. And
we're sharing. You want to share. Why are you going to share this? You know.
That's where the criticism, I think, is sometimes maybe a little harder to take, because you are so open and honest, because you're not writing, right? We're not writing like a fictional story or writing about a legend or something going on. You're writing about a personal experience, you know, something that to yourself changed your life. You came back a new person, or Howie discussing, you know, your struggles and what you go through. And then if someone critiques that, sometimes it's kind of like, hey, you know, you weren't there. You know, it's like, you weren't there. You don't know. But it's like, it is.
It's a special club we let you in.
That's the best art.
Yeah. Like,
that is the best art.
He climbed a freaking mountain. Like, I would drop way worse swearing. It'd be like an Eminem album going up. You don't want my version of that. I don't even know. I complain going in the mall and, you know, like waking up in the morning. Like,
no, but I get it, man. Like, you know, it's so, I don't know how we express ourselves. It's all a challenge and stuff like that. But I do think that the idea of like sharing stories, the idea of connecting to people, and also the profound, right? So, I mean, I had a really spiritual moment there at the rim of the volcano, not at the summit, but like just below, when, I mean, it was like 3 a.m. and I was as cold as I've ever been. I mean, it's an Arctic tundra up there. There's glaciers, you know. At the bottom of the mountain, it's a rainforest. It's summer, you know, and in the middle, it's like fall, you know, and you have all the seasons in the span of 6 days. But I'm from New England. We can do that in one day. Like, we can literally wake up to winter, You know, it can be like sweltering summer and then like it can snow by dinner, you know, like that's whatever. We get that. But at the same time, you know, when you just can't breathe. And I noticed around 3 a.m. heading to the summit, about 17,000 feet. You start at midnight. It's dark. You can't see anything except like a little halo from your headlamp. And I've had voices in my head. I know, right? Like I've had this dialogue going in my head my entire life. There's always chatter. There's always talking going on in there. And it was like 3:30 in the morning, and I went, "Uh-oh." They've stopped. Like,
Really? You actually had a quiet.
I noticed it. I was like, what does that mean?
That's the magic hour too. That's the paranormal, right? Isn't
Yeah.
that yeah, the veil.
I don't think it was the hour so much as like the altitude and like whatever. But the voices went quiet, and I realized the inner dialogue just shut down for the first time in as long as I can humanly remember. And I'm like, can't be, is it, maybe it's really good, or maybe it's really bad. And I still don't know. But I do know it got quiet in my head for the first time. And it stayed quiet for a little while until I saw this sunrise. And then there's a word for the top of Kilimanjaro that the Chaga people, the Maasai people, it means the house of God. Because think about it, you've lived your whole life at the base of the mountain where it's summer. You see the whiteness at the top, and that's what Kilimanjaro means, like the white mountain. It's so foreign to you because it's snow. You've never seen snow in your life. You see it up there, but you've never touched it. It's too far out of reach. And you know, only those that God deems worthy are allowed up there. And so it kind of crosses your mind when I saw this sunrise at like, you know, 6 a.m. and it was the most spectacular thing I've ever seen in my life. And think about it. It happens every day. It happens for millions of years, long before humans ever were here. Like, it's happened. And you see this sunrise, and I felt Chris, my brother-in-law, who passed away. I felt him standing next to me, watching it with me. I felt this God presence, spirit of the mountain, whatever, like all around me. And I was just like, it was just the most real thing I've ever experienced. And that was the moment. That was the defining moment where I said, you know, there's still another hour to go, another 500 vertical feet, another like half mile. But I knew right then and there, this is a done deal. I'm going to make it. Not even a question anymore. Wow. Just got to finish it. And I did. And I trudged along, couldn't breathe, but got to the sign, touched it, got my pictures, and then realized I was halfway home.
And wow, that's incredible. I mean, and that having that feeling that you literally saw why they, you know, what the people believe up there to be true. You had that moment.
It was Howie, it was so cool. Like I wish I could have just brought everyone with me. I mean, I did my best with the book.
You can with the book, yeah.
Right.
But I prefer it because I don't have to walk anywhere except to my front door, and Amazon delivered it. I prefer it.
There you go. But yeah, it was such a moment to just realize that something so simple as a sunrise could just give me so much hope. And I got a great shot of it. It was a picture I only half remember taking. Because, you know, you're just like so exhausted, but I'm like, that's pretty incredible, you know, and I took 1,600 photos. So that's not, you know, you're going to get lucky a little bit in there, you know, when you work in that volume. And I've had this thing made into a print that hangs on my wall. I've had it made into postcards. I've given away thousands of them, where I was just like, this like image represents hope to me. And I love the fact that it comes in the form of a sunrise, because no matter how crappy today gets, that sun is coming up again tomorrow. You know what I mean? Like, and just like, there's this whole idea of like, all right, tomorrow the sun will rise. There will be hope again. Tomorrow could suck too. It could, but at least you get a fresh start, you know, and a chance at a good day. Yeah. Exactly. Wow. That's it.
That's awesome. Now, when you say finding hope, did you find exactly what you were looking for, or what you found was absolutely not what you expected?
I don't know what I was looking for. I was thinking about the top. I was thinking about bragging rights, if I'm being totally honest, right? No, sure. Like, I mean, hey, man,
that's a physical accomplishment. Yeah,
totally. I climbed Kilimanjaro. It occurred to me when I'm in my 40s, I'm like, I'm never going to play in the NFL, which is stupid. I never even played high school football.
I love that, dude. I get the same way. I was like, I'll never be a professional wrestler. My friend's a referee, and I was like, she's living her dream. But when I was a little kid, I thought maybe it's too late. It's too late to start weightlifting.
On the clothesline Hulk Hogan in the ring and high five Ultimate Warrior.
Yeah, I won't have that chance now.
No, it's not happening. But there's other things you can do, so you can think of the things you can't do. So yeah, I mean, I wanted to like just go have a big experience, and then but getting to the top was like just this singular goal. And it took me to the top to realize like maybe that wasn't it. And so, like I said, so much of this stuff, so many of the lessons weren't learned till weeks after, like when it all sort of sunk in. The analogy I've used is like at the very top, it's like a picture was taken, but it's just an outline, just a black and white line drawing. And it would take weeks, even months for the colors to start to fill in and for you to get like the whole complete picture of what that really is. And I filled in those pictures kind of like writing about it, talking about it, bringing it home, looking at all the pictures I took again, and just remembering those moments and realizing like, wow, I found so much more than I was looking for, and something totally different. And it's so natural to have expectations, but at the same time, expectations can be such a killer because you might miss something else that you never expected. One other thing. So before I got there, I remember I had great cameras. I had a GoPro. I had like my phone. I had like spare batteries. And I was like, I'm going to take a picture of the first step. This is going to be a moment. It's going to be the book cover. Like if I ever write a book, it's going to be all kinds of things. And I'm going to video it. I'm going to put the GoPro over there and I'm going to just first step. We're 50 yards up the trail before it even occurred to me that we started, that I was like, crap, I missed it. Like we're already on the way because my head was in so many places. Yeah. But then I started thinking about this and I was like, was that the first step 50 yards ago? Or was it this morning at the hotel in Moshi, right? Or was it 3 days ago at the airport in Boston when I flew out? Or was it when I left my house? And you realize like, if you've ever read any story or watched any movie, none of them, not a single one, has ever started in the beginning. You just jump in, right? Like you just jump in. Star Wars, right? There's a ship under attack by another ship, right? Like that's not the beginning. That's just where we're starting.
Yeah.
I mean,
jumping in that moment of time.
That's where we jump in. And so you realize, the beginning, it doesn't even matter anyway in a narrative. That's the writer in me having a realization, like the beginning doesn't matter. You just jump in and let's go. And so that's that. And when I started writing the book, I'm like, that's where we started 50 yards up the trail. We're already on our way.
That's awesome. Yeah. That's so awesome. Thank you. Yeah. I'm so glad that you decided to, share that journey, and I think it's just a really awesome story that I can't recommend enough. And along with all your paranormal work too, it's great to see something, a personal book. Like I know you're in each book, but
sure,
this is like
this is a different cool. This is a trip, an adventure taken, and shared with others. Where the other paranormal stuff's adventurous and whatnot, but this is just something I think personal, and it's good to break away and really just kind of be vulnerable, right?
Yeah,
let people
and it's still spiritual.
And that's what this does, and it's still spiritual.
Totally,
that's
right? To me, like that's part of the reason I go ghost hunting. I want to know what else is out there. Because I felt that, like you said, that mortality hit me recently, and man, I really felt unsettled. It was like I could feel myself on this planet. Like it was weird. Like I felt, oh my God, for the first time, I'm cognizant I'm on a planet and I'm not going to be here forever. And I got that chill. Like, what happens if, oh my God, I could lose anybody now. It was weird. It was really weird that happened to me because I'd worry, and I'd always fear losing people, but like this was like legit. And placing through your 20s and 30s, you're just no fear. I think I had no fear about stuff like that. I was like, oh, I could do anything, blah, blah, blah. And now I'm like, it's weird. So like, I think it's really cool to hear about a journey you could take you had that similar moment. That it was not just something I'm alone with. That's crazy. And I look forward to bringing that onto ghost hunting, because it adds a whole new thing to like, why are we ghost hunting? Now I'm like, because I want to be, I don't want to be afraid for the next 40 years, hopefully. God willing, I'd like to have some more stuff happening. I'm not into that whole, we're just in the dirt. And that's it. I'm not into that. That's never been, like, that might be fun for some people.
Well, if you think about it, there's got to be more out there. It may not be what we believe to be based on centuries and centuries of what's been handed down. Personally, I think a lot of it was for law and order. But, I do think something's out there, and I hope that something's out there, because we experience too much, right? As a civilization, just look at love, look at how you love your spouse or your children. I found, since when I had children, I felt a love that I can't actually describe to you. Like, it is something more powerful than anything I've ever experienced, felt, still feel. And I had that moment when they were born, and I had this instant love. Like, no one's gonna hurt you. You are mine. I will protect you. And I had a moment, and I kind of thought to myself, like, there has to be more, because I was so atheist at one point, just like, not like, no, this is just dark. There's nothing there, blah, blah, blah. But I'm like, I'm experiencing this. Like, this has to go somewhere after this. Like, I have to be able to take this. There has to be a point to this feeling, for this. This can't just be, where just happenstance, and, we're an organism on a planet that, has intelligence and created something beyond here, because we don't know. I think we do know there's something there. And I think that's the gift of life, is knowing what's next. And I think when you experience the love and stuff, like I described, for me, that's my story. That's the journey I've been on. I have to be able to take that with me. It can't be black. It can't be the end. Because you can't let something experience what we experience, right? And I think that's why reality hits us so hard sometimes, like you were saying, Howie, where it's like, I could lose someone at any second. But see, we're programmed to be like, you hear something bad in the news. Oh, wow, there was a shooting, this and that. That's horrible. But you move on, because it's kind of how we program ourselves to get through the day to day, because
it's coping or something.
It's a coping mechanism. How we do things. But then you do hit that moment, you're like, oh my gosh, I could drop dead in 2 seconds, and my children could be fatherless. Or I could, my wife's going out to the store, and she could get into a car accident. I could never see her again. Like, we can't live like that. But again, if you think of the joy and the love we experience, I mean, that's really, I think, what life is about, honestly, is the love, the friendship. There's just so many powerful emotions that can't be for naught,
Is this the deepest, most emotional?
I think this is the most deepest, let's talk paranormal television.
Okay, let's
bring it down.
Well, why is everything no, but it's good talk, because you don't get to talk like this often. I'm not gonna lie. It's good to get
us, deep, Jeff. Your journey.
I do what I can.
I'm glad I didn't have to climb it. I just had to listen to you.
You may read it and then want to go climb it. You may be like, I need to feel this.
I might. Well, I'm reading it as soon as I get back from vacation. I have it. I looked at the pictures, because I'm a picture person. I want to see his beautiful face. I want to see his beautiful face. That's what I looked. That's why I bought that book. He's on the cover. That's why I bought that.
That's weird too. Like, to be on the cover, like,
It's like, good night, Jeff.
Yeah, it's a beautiful cover. You're like looking up, and
I've had friends like, but I should mention, dude friends that like take pictures and selfies with the book in their beds, and they're like, "You're in bed with me tonight."
Oh my! I didn't do that. That wasn't
not yet.
No. When I get
like,
back,
night, homie.
That was a hint, Howie. Like, it's yours is missing. I have a whole collection of like selfies with like my dude friends being like, "You're in bed with me."
I'll get that.
Like, I'm finding hope tonight.
Shelly's asleep. It's just you and me, Jeff.
That's right. Yeah.
Don't wake her up.
Don't ruin this.
Don't ruin this, Shelly. Stay sleeping. We gotta get. What's a fun paranormal story you want to share before you go on your next journey from us? Because we can't hang out all night.
Okay. A fun paranormal.
You're busy. You're a busy person. Me and Nile will just stay forever talking about you.
I'm quilting later.
Oh God. So, I mean, the stories I collect, they're not just paranormal. Sometimes they actually really happen, but they're super weird. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So there was this guy named Joseph Palmer from Fitchburg, Massachusetts, and he went to jail for having a beard.
Jesus Christ. What state is that?
Massachusetts.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah. So
that's weird.
this would have been about was it 1820 or so, or 1830, and he was a very religious, pious man, and he wanted to look like Jesus and Moses, so he grew a beard. His minister called him satanic. Dudes in the street literally jumped this guy, trying to hold him down and shave his beard in the street. He pulls out a knife, stabs one of them, and then he gets arrested. Like, he's the guy who's arrested. He was attacked by 4 people. And so the judge tells him, like, look, just pay this fine. You can go on your way. He goes, no way, because that would be admitting guilt. And I'm not guilty. I was defending myself. I wear a beard, and so he went to jail. And it was this whole thing, and it turned in, and then like he got the prison reformed because he was an eloquent writer, and he was talking about how horrible the conditions are. And suddenly, like, the whole community was sort of like turning to his favor. Like, hey, what's the big deal with wearing a beard? Like, what do you care? And what it really came down to, by the way, was just hardcore anti-Semitism. Jewish men wear beards. You're trying to look Jewish, and like that's anti-Semitism, like,
wow,
crazy,
yeah,
right?
At
Like,
the core.
yeah,
So that was it. Wow.
They called him old Jew, right? They just called him the old Jew, and he wasn't. He was Christian, right?
Wow.
But it was that bad. Anyway,
Wow.
eventually he gets out of jail and so on. And then, by the way, by the 1860s, you might be thinking like, wait a minute, wasn't there a president in the 1860s with a beard? Yeah, Lincoln, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, like beards came into fashion while he was still very much alive. Anyway, the coolest part of the whole story is his headstone in Fitchburg is this really cool carved bust of him with this big old beard, and it says persecuted for wearing a beard. and that's forever there on his headstone. And I love stories like that where you're walking through the cemetery and there's crosses and obelisks and whatever and old death heads, and then you just see that and you're like, persecuted for wearing a beard? And stuff like that makes you stop and ask big questions. And it's the same way I feel like when you walk down a street and someone, you see an old building and someone goes, that one's haunted. And you go, why? Well, the only way to answer that is to research and go back in time and learn who lived there and who worked there and who died there and what are the stories. And like, that's what I love, when there's something that grabs your attention right now, here today, and forces you to go back in time and connect with it and figure it out, and then come back to today after going on that journey into the past and being like, wow, this dude was literally jumped for having a beard, and they called him old Jew. This is how rampant anti-Semitism was in Massachusetts, one of the most liberal states in the whole country.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, but that anti-Semitism was that prevalent, that, crazy. And it all comes down to a headstone today that's still speaking for the man all these years later.
Good. And it's
awesome.
and it's just weird how beards, a lot of people have beards.
Yeah. I like having facial hair. I just trimmed it up for that.
There's always been beards, though. It's so weird. It's that little town.
And there was beards before, but so what happened was it was early 1700s.
That little town.
They went out of fashion. No, it wasn't even that town.
Oh.
Like they went out of fashion collectively. If you look at portraits from like most of the 1700s, think about every Revolutionary War.
Oh, they're all clean.
That's true. Yeah, beards did go out of style. It wasn't. Yeah.
They had the wigs.
You don't do it. They had the wigs and no facial hair, and then
wooden teeth.
So to wear facial hair, you're like this nonconformist, right?
Yeah.
And there's always been nonconformists. We have them today. There always have been. And those folks stick out. And I guess that's kind of part of the point, right? Like, you're sticking out, people are staring, and you're nonconforming anyway. And that's, I don't know, like, those are the badasses.
Cool.
Sometimes,
that's cool.
It's really cool that he said nope. And he's not going to pay the fine, and and he changed things for the better.
And then he improves the town.
And he's got a cool tombstone.
They get to know him, and they realize, wow, there's a lot more to him than this beard in our perception of him.
Yeah, it's just one of many stories. Yeah, wow.
Yeah, and it all came down to a beard banned in Massachusetts. There you go.
Incredible.
That's amazing.
And before we let you go, Jeff, real quick, I know you have your hands in television and stuff. Anything cool going on that anyone should know about? Anything you can talk about?
Yeah, so there's a series on Travel Channel and Discovery Plus called Shock Docs that I've been on 3 of them. I just filmed the 4th. Ooh, and I think there's a new one coming out about the Exorcist case, the exorcism of Roland Doe. I think it's coming out next week on the Travel Channel. So I've actually really dug working on these. I was on the one about the Warrens, about Amityville.
I saw that one. Yeah.
Yeah, about the exorcism of Roland Doe, and we just filmed another one last week that'll come out, I think, in June. So it's I'm actually on camera for these, so it's been a pretty cool project, and it's like old school paranormal documentaries. You know what I mean? It's not investigative. Yeah. It's just like, here's the story, here's the interviews, here's the experts, here's the information, and the exorcism of Roland Doe is specifically about the case that inspired William Peter Blatty to write the book The Exorcist, which of course led to the movie The Exorcist, which I mean changed like Catholicism, right? Like, I mean, I remember interviewing a priest, a Catholic priest who was a priest in the 70s. He's like, "Oh my God, that movie." I don't think he said, "Oh my God," maybe "Oh my gosh."
He probably said,
I don't mean to put words in his mouth. I don't mean to make him, I just made this poor guy blaspheme. I'm sorry, Father. Bless me. I've sinned.
Could have been worse with that review from Amazon I read.
That's right. I know. That's where it started. But he said back in the 70s, people were all coming to church and being like, "I need an exorcism." And they're like, "No, you don't." You know, and it created a problem because everybody thought they were possessed by the devil. So and that's how powerful popular culture is, right? That it can, you know, people see this movie and they go, "I don't feel too good myself. Maybe I have a demon."
Anytime I throw up, I'm like, it's a demon.
That's a demon. Yeah,
it's
for sure.
It's that movie freaks me out.
The demon Jack Daniels.
Yes. I do not own that on DVD or Blu-ray because it scares me that much. Like, it freaks me out to this day. So I respectfully do not own it.
It's a scary movie. And it's so scary because a scary story, because the idea is that like Reagan, the kid, is completely innocent, right? She really did nothing wrong. And yet this monster like singled her out, and then people who didn't even know her fought to help her. And like, and then
their life,
and they suffered for that too. Like the idea that like, wow, I mean, it's just tragedy all around, and scary and frightening. And you're like, but also that's what makes it, I think, a little bit more real. You know, when we watch Friday the 13th, we know like, oh, you teenagers are having sex in the woods and you're not watching the kids swim like you're supposed to. You deserve to die.
Yeah, they got the sin, but she didn't do anything. She played with the Ouija board. I guess you could say that. She played with the board game.
Come on. That doesn't count.
That wasn't worth what happened.
No.
I don't like that is it's really terrible. And she's such a Linda Blair is such a great actress in that. I mean,
amazing.
And probably the best special effects and makeup. I mean, to this day, and I thought
it holds up. It holds up.
1973. 1973 was when that was done.
And Max von Sydow, I thought was 80 in that. He's not. He was, he was still. Like, I saw him in The Force Awakens. I'm like, my man is still the same age.
Yeah,
he's been 70 for 4 decades.
I know. Yeah, and then when he was in Strange Brew.
Oh
his crowning achievement as an actor.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
And The Exorcist.
And The Exorcist.
Then The Exorcist.
Yeah. He's been in some of the greatest. We agree that he's been in some of the greatest movies ever made.
Strange Brew, and then that Exorcist movie.
That Exorcist movie that no one cares about that movie.
No. And then Star Wars. I mean, who's got a better resume?
Come on. Everyone knows Star Trek's better anyways, so we don't even need to get into that.
And I put him in Paranormal too, which hopefully his family is okay with. Because I mean, I put him in there. Whatever.
You'll find out.
No, well, it's like an indie hit, so it's fine.
Yeah,
it's very independent.
Yeah, totally.
Well, Jeff, we want to thank you so much for hanging out with us. It's been a pleasure having you on our POPXP Paranormal show. And everyone, if you're enjoying what we're doing, make sure to click that subscribe button below and click that bell to get notifications when we go live and we upload new content. And please head on over to jeffbelanger.com if you want to get more information on what he does, some of the adventures he's gone on, links to what he has going on, as well as the books he's written. You can head on over there, and I'll have that link in the description of the show, as well as the Amazon link for the book, The Call of Kilimanjaro, Finding the Hope Above the Clouds. So again, Jeff, it's been a pleasure for coming on. You're always welcome to come on if you ever want to hang out, have a drink with us, maybe on one of those crazy nights when we all just want to let our hair down. You're more than welcome to join and hang out with us again.
Sounds good. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Jeff.
All right, everyone, have yourselves a great night. We'll see you all 2 weeks from now on the next POPXP Paranormal. Hey everyone, thank you for joining us on POPXP. If you haven't already, make sure to click that subscribe button and also click the bell for notifications when we go live and we upload some awesome new content. Also, don't forget to head on over to Twitter and follow us at the POPXP and over on Instagram at the POPXP. Thanks again everyone, and we'll see you soon.